G'day, my friends. Well, worm wranglers, I should say. And friends. Well, of course, we're all friends here. Thank you so much for turning up to another exciting show here on the Marty's Garden channel, where we discuss worm farming and all that really cool stuff. And today, the title is Wormcast Magic, Benefits of Worm Farming. Farming worms for castings. That's basically it. Well, I shouldn't say basically, because this is going to be pretty exciting and eye-opening for some that maybe don't know this type of thing about the content based around worm casts. See, what we're doing is we're farming these amazing creatures, getting the excrement from them, and using them to grow plants. A lot of people just think that a worm cast is like a little NPK pellet, right? That's sort of like you're replacing NPK, so like a chemically derived from petroleum product into an organic product. But it's actually way more than that. It is like beyond our mind of what we can even conceive more than that. And so what I'm going to do is try and break some of that down in a real simple formula today for you guys, and then how you can use it a little bit, or not a little bit. Hopefully you can make the change if you're still using some chemical fertilizers and heading towards organics and turning your waste into something wonderful, which really becomes something that is not only powerful, but is useful in the garden at the same time. So welcome everyone, and look, thank you all the worm wranglers that have been supporting the channel, and subscribers and people coming into live shows, watching the videos, watching them right through, even people watching the playlists right through. Unreal, and just so grateful for all of you. Now, if anyone would like to leave what we call, so it's like a little, what do we call it again? I've totally forgotten. So super chat, yeah, you can do like a super chat at the bottom of the place where we're all commenting, and you can just leave a small donation there. Every tiny little bit helps, and it adds up towards the end of the month, where I can keep rolling this content out for you guys, teaching you worm farming, and hopefully you're making the transition, or you've already made the transition, and you're getting some castings going and getting ready to grow more plants. So let's get into it. I'm going to give myself a little cheers. Got some fresh water here. Got my earth cup from YouTube, package free one. I love drinking out of glass. There's just something really special about drinking out of glass. And what we'll do is we'll welcome everyone to the show now, and just awesome to have you here. So thank you very much. If you're new to the show, we have a Q&A towards the end, and you'll find that what we do is we create this ongoing discussion on the topic, and all share our knowledge and questions and things. And then we move towards any other questions to do with worm farming related, so I can help you guys out at home get the best results as possible. So let's get into it. Jeremy Tarrant, looking forward to the information, Marty. Well, welcome, Jeremy. And I like your little profile shot there, mate, with a little daughter or boy on there. I can't see, it's a bit small, but family man. Welcome, mate, to the show. Lisa G. Hi, Marty. I enjoyed your microgreens video. It has me thinking. Yeah, well, I've got them actually down here. They're like, we'll talk about them more in a little bit. They're actually leafy greens, but we can actually discuss the difference between leafy greens and microgreens, and baby leaf. And I was just saying hello to everyone when we were turning up. Robbie Marino. Good morning, Marty, and good morning all. Looking forward to today's session. Good morning, Robbie. Now, you might see I'm a bit run out of breath. I've been running around this morning like a madman, and also getting my script together because I didn't do it last night. I hadn't been sleeping real well, and I got to be honest, I got a CPAP machine, one of those things I could put it over my nose and pumps air, and it keeps my airways open. And I had one of the best night's sleep in ages, even though they're a bit uncomfortable. I'm still getting used to it, but so yeah, it's a bit of a distraction. But we're getting there, right? Billy May, good morning, worm wranglers. Good morning, Billy. YAS, your airport shuttle. Good morning and welcome yet again. And we get a lot of people, repeat people come back to the show every weekend. So thank you so much for everyone, and newbies that are turning up. Chris Ruwalt, morning everyone. It's a great sunny morning in Sydney. Yes. And where I am at North Haven on Port Macquarie, also beautiful and sunny. Had a message from a friend this morning about 7:30. Marty, small waves out the front. Do you want to go surfing? Sorry, mate. Bit busy, got things to do. But I might go surfing a bit later on if it's looking good. Barry Watler, g'day. Marty, hi everyone from a fine sunny day in North Brisbane. Well, it sounds like we've got some sunny weather going on. Jess Bridges, hi from Nashville, Tennessee. G'day, Jess. Lovely to see you here again. Colby Andrews, howdy from New York State. Howdy, Colby, and welcome to the show. And Owain's Worm Farm, good early morning. Good morning to you. Joe Nono, greetings from Los Angeles. We've got people all over the world. It's one thing I love about these live shows. Not only do we get to share this passion together and educate each other at the same time, because I learn too while we're in here, and we get to sort of like get to meet each other, and we've got this common interest. So it's really, really cool, and it shows we're all around the globe, not just all around the globe, just unreal. Joanne Blight. Good morning, Marty from Malabar, New South Wales. Malabar, New South Wales. Well, welcome, Joanne. Unreal to see you here. Jan Harrell. Good evening, Marty from Houston, Texas. We've lots of little clappies there. We like it. And, I even got a kiss at the end. I'll catch that one, Jan. Thank you very much for that. And Palm Desert, California is what your airport shovel is from. And Owain's Worm. I'm thinking about buying one of your shirts, Marty. Can I sort that out when I get paid on Thursday, mate? I think that would be possible. I'm thinking, it's just trying to think what to do, whether it's difficult to send them overseas, right? That's going to be the problem. But these things only weigh I think they're 90 grams. They're super light, they weigh nothing. So I've got to work that out. But yeah, please stay in touch with me. Maybe just message. We'll find a way to do that. They are a great shirt. But like I said last week, they're not a cheap shirt, right? Okay, some people starting to talk about what they're doing in here. So what we're going to do is, as we move into this content here, right, so everyone's sort of chatting there. So what we're going to do is move into the content, and we're going to talk about the benefits. We're going to talk about what a worm casting really is, and what it can do for you, and sort of take it a bit further than sort of into this, not so much getting too science nerdy, but just take it in a direction where you may have not heard about it before. So firstly, a worm casting is something that passes through the worm gut, and it hits inside the gut. There's a bit of a sort of like a chicken has, so there's a little bit of grit in there, and there's all different types of bacteria inside the worm's stomach, like us when we talk about gut health, right? And so the worm passes that through, and then it comes out the end. We call it a nice word for a worm poop, worm cast, or vermicompost, however you want to call it. And it's full of microbes and nutrition. It has a lot of the different balance of sort of bacteria and things like that, fungi and stuff. And it also has, our NPK and our micronutrients and things. So if we're looking back at fertilizers, we're just going NPK, right? Nitrogen, potassium, calcium. Well, it contains all those, but in a very small, minute amount. Actually, when you go buy worm castings, it might even say that there's no nitrogen in it, but don't believe that there isn't. There actually is, and it's caught up in what we call organic. So it's caught up in the enzymes and the different bacteria and things and the microbes and stuff inside, and they actually release this nutrition to the plant over time. And so they've done studies now where they can go right into actually what's in the microbes and what's in this sort of good bacteria and how it's releasing it through organic nitrogen, right? So there is actually nitrogen there, and it may not show when you go to buy it. So don't look at a worm cast as the same as NPK, right? Look at it as this biology bomb that sets off in the ground, and where the plants and the microbacteria are all speaking to each other and releasing what it needs at the right time. Okay, this is sort of how it works. And in a good, healthy soil, this is the basis of where we're trying to get to. So we're working towards a humusy soil where everything's working in conjunction together. And I've got to make sure I've got my list here, because I don't want to get too sidetracked, because then we can just go off and you can speak on this for days. And so what we're looking at is the gut bacteria. So I've got this here. And this is like breaking, it's really like world breaking news, right? If you're sort of into this type of thing. We hear a lot of stuff on TV about having our own good gut bacteria. Well, the worm actually holds a lot of this bacteria. And so, say for example, it goes along and it eats the side of some type of bacteria or microbe, ingests it. It actually super implodes it and makes it like, I don't know how many times more, I don't even can call it nutrient dense. I'm lost for the words to put it into action. This is really quite a difficult thing to talk about because I don't know a lot of the terminology. So I'm just going to try and break it down as simply as possible for you guys. So what happens is that once it passes through and then becomes in the worm casting contains a cell membrane, right? And around the outside, there's like this mucousy sac. Now, around the outside of that, there's also microbes attached to that as well, right? And what happens is that shrinks and expands. It shrinks and expands, and that all that bacteria and microbes and fungi and things that's held into that is actually released. And a worm is a transporter of that material. It's like our little truck drivers going around and going, I'll take it over here, I'll drop it over there, and moving this stuff around. And say, for example, it's picked up a bit of fungi somewhere, and it's moved it, then that fungi could obviously populate in that area and then start helping the plants grow and things. So it is very different to NPK. It is not the same, even though it controls and has nutrition in it. It works in a different way. It's very soft on the plant. It doesn't burn the roots in any way, and the plants actually benefit in other ways. So this is the next part we're talking about here is growth hormones, right? Now I've got it written down here. Produced and transported around the entire plant. So a growth hormone can be bonded by sugars and amino acids and saved in storage, and it can be anywhere from the tip down to the root. And the plant actually can speak to the growth hormone and allow it to do what it wants to do at the time. And guess what? Growth hormones and these accelerators are found in worm castings, right? So it helps the plant when it's uptaking that nutrition from that. It's helping the plant do what it wants to do. And the plant just goes and does it when it wants. It goes, okay, that growth hormone's sitting there. Right, now we need to produce flowers. So we'll send down some signals down to the root zone where there's more growth hormones, and then we'll let the bacteria, we'll let the fungi and everything know to bring up this nutrition to us at the right time. So that's what I'm talking about. It's stored there, right? And it's used in a different way. Where we've got a petroleum chemical fertilizer, it leaches out and it goes out into the subsoil and it kills the bacteria and the fungi around. It can really do a lot of damage. Also go into our waterways, do a lot of damage, create blue-green algae outbreaks and things like that, which we've all seen in rivers and creeks and dams, especially here in Australia. I guess all over the world, right? So Charles Darwin, he's a good bit of trivia for you. I don't know if trivia is the right word, but Charles Darwin and his son were the guys to first start discovering this, right? And they discovered a plant hormone called auxin, and they discovered through doing tests and trials on oats that it was in the roots and the plant's tips and all right through the plant, which is just absolutely amazing. So before we get into this even further, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through some of the questions here, or what people are talking about, and I'll bring across what I think is sort of relevant that everyone will understand. And remember, the Q&A is more sort of towards the end, and we'll have like any questions that you want to answer. Okay, so let's keep scrolling through. Oh, there's a lot of people talking about shirts and all this type of stuff, which is pretty amazing. Maybe we can talk about that more to the end. I don't want to get too sidetracked from the piece of content, and then we'll sort of look at that type of thing more towards the end. So if you can bring it up again, that would really help, please. I just don't want to get sidetracked. And we'll just scroll through. Okay. Brussels booblets. Here we go here. Brussels worm castings. The only fertilizer necessary, feed the soil. Yep, so a really good comment here. And what we're doing is we're actually looking at, I've got this sort of like phrase, feed the soil, not the plants. So what we're doing when we're feeding the soil, and we've got, so we're feeding our soil with, say, vermiponics or vermicast, right? What we're doing is we're actually feeding the soil the nutrition, the biology, and all the nutrition that comes with it in the form of a biology bomb, right? We can have like 1 billion microbes in something that size. And if we're releasing it to the soil, we're releasing those microbes. Now, the microbes and the bacteria and things are on the side of the food that the worms are eating. And we supply our worms a wide array of different types of foods to eat. And then we get a whole lot of different types of microbes and bacteria. The bacteria is actually in there to help break down the material, and then the worms are scooping off the side of it as it's breaking down the material and then grabbing that and transporting it around and dropping it off the place. So we've got our own slow release fertilizer that can live in the soil for up to around about 6 months and releasing not only the enzymes but growth hormones as well. So what we're doing is we're feeding the soil, not the plants. And when you're feeding plants, you're pretty much throwing on chemical fertilizers and thinking about just feed the plants. And what happens is when we feed the plants that way, too much nitrogen and too much excess of certain minerals and things like that, what happens is the plant can get a great accelerated growth, but can also become more susceptible to pests and disease because it doesn't have the strong cell wall that transports all this great, beautiful material around. I think it's called chlorosis or something like that. I can't think of the name at the moment, but in photosynthesis. And when we've got a nice strong cell wall on the plant, less pests can get through and sort of pierce into the side of the plant. And you'll see your plant will stand up nice and stocky and strong and have that really good green color. So when we're feeding the soil, this is what we're doing. We're helping the plant develop its own nutrition, and it can speak to what it needs to down below through these growth hormones and regulators, and then tell the plant and tell the fungi and things when to pass sugars up. So that's what we're doing. We're creating this like living, breathing system below the ground that speaks to the plant, and they both feed each other. So the plant is feeding the system down below with the sunlight and the energy through photosynthesis and all the sugars, and then we've got this explosion of growth going on. And this is the direction that I believe the world needs to take, and we can simplify it by just not even looking at all this stuff, just going, it is a great product. It is a great amendment for soils and for plants, for potting mixes, different things. And it's free, and we're turning our own waste into something valuable to grow this amazing fresh food that tastes absolutely awesome. So yeah, it really is. We can use other things such as manures and things like that, but basically the manures, the bacteria and the worms are coming, eating that and then transporting it. So think about it in that direction. NPK can be thrown out the window. For sure. I think the only place it has really, from my opinion, is really like maybe in hydroponics and things like that, where we need to supply a lot of food to a lot of people quickly, and it's a quick, fast solution, and it's not leaching out. It's been actually, at the end product, there's something done with it, so it doesn't become, really toxic. Florida just had the red tide and kills everything. I don't know much about the red tide, but I know that's an algae breakout, I believe. We have something similar here. Anything to prevent algal blooms. Yeah, so basically, because wormcast, it's a slow release, but it doesn't have anything sort of like toxic in there or too much overload. It does that pretty much straight away. And we've got a super chat today from Billy May. Thank you so much, Billy May. I do appreciate it. It's really, really helpful, as I said. And we have this, there's a little artificial crowd here that applauses. Yes, they were a little late. And they love to give the applause. And I thank you very much. Bottom of my heart, it really does help so much. So thank you. Oh, good. Getting sidetracked, Marty. Yeah. So thank you very much, Billy. I really appreciate it. Yep, I can get sidetracked. That's why I've got my notes and my list here, so I can go back to it and get into it. And then we're looking at what we're going to do and how we're going to work with worm casts and sort of get your mind thinking about how it works differently without going too overloaded with the science stuff and goes, oh man, that's just over my head. Break it down in such a way. So what we're talking about is the plants and the microbes and the fungi all speaking to each other by feeding the soil, not the plant, and getting this symbiosis working together. And, growth hormones is one of the things that we're talking about, right? So we've also got growth accelerators, enzymes. There's lots of other things that are involved in the whole system that actually help the plant grow. And I've got some plants here. Now, if you didn't see the video that went out last night, I'm putting some gardening videos out related to planting out on worm castings. And I'll be talking more about this in these videos. So this is really a breakdown to sort of give you an idea of the gardening side of things. And I'll just grab this plant here. And so these are the guys that were in the video last night. We've got some Mizuna here and some Pok Choi. And it's like a planting into worm cast. And just look at the health of those guys. They're just standing up brilliantly. I give them a little spray of water and they're getting a little bit of the leachate coming out of the worm farms every morning and just in the morning sun. And they are doing absolutely brilliant. And you can see the little side leaves. I can come along and pick off those and mix them into salads and things and get the nutrition out of that. Now, the nutrition in these plants is way beyond anything that you can grow for us, and the taste and flavour than you can grow any other way, I believe, from my personal experience as a horticulturist. Now, I've got some strawberries down here as well, which I'm going to be planting out in an upcoming video, so not too far distant future. I have to fill in for work again because Sydney's in lockdown. We've got problems with, like the whole COVID thing and stuff. People can't get to work and I'm filling in some positions and things. So look at those strawberries. They've been fed with a liquid tea coming out of the worm farms. And there's not like one bit of fungi, like bad fungus or anything growing on the leaves or anything. And what's happening is the good bacteria is forming around on the side of the leaves. So we have bacteria on our skin and everything, believe it or not. And so does on the plant's leaves. Everything is talking to each other. And so when we're growing organically, this is how we think. And you think about like the crew that go back, 100 years or so, whatever, they talk about the pixies and the fairies. He's off for the fairies, as they say. Well, the science now is showing that some of these guys that were off for the fairies, they didn't have the terminology for it, so they made up stories. And if we go back and we look into Aboriginal legend and legends from, different indigenous cultures and things, they have these stories, right? So let's not write them off. They knew these things were happening, but they just didn't have the terminology or the science to put it together, but they could observe and see it happening. And remember, the intelligence has been much the same. We've all just been people. So, it's an amazing way to grow plants. And I am not going to stop. I'm just like all systems forward and going to be still teaching this on my channel here. And you will get amazing results if you follow the systems that I've been using for years and years. And it will help you grow amazing plants. There is no doubt about it. So if you're not a worm wrangler yet, you can there'll be a link available below the description or any of my videos in the descriptions where you can see like worm wrangler or courses. And there's a course in there for starting seedlings, organic seedlings, and it teaches a lot about worm castings and using it to raise your seedlings. And that gets the seedlings up and going really well. Because when we're putting worm caster around seedlings, what it does is it's so soft on the plant and gentle, and it's got all these like growth hormones, accelerators, and all the nutrition that it needs. But also it protects from pathogens and things that want to attack the roots. And it sets up the cell system really quickly and really strong. So there's this good synergistic flow of sap moving up and down below, going back to the root system and up to the tip and backwards and forwards. And if you look in like a lot of science things with horticulture and stuff about photosynthesis, you'll see this loop of going like this. So we're setting it up early for the plant to be much more pest resistant and disease resistant. And you can just see by those strawberries how good they are, right? There's not like a blemish on them. And honestly, I don't do anything else than what I teach here. on this channel. So, Scotty King, don't forget to hit that like button. Yes, we forgot to do that. We've got 33 people watching, 17 thumbs up, guys. So what we like to do is we want to keep the number of the people watching to the number of the thumbs up. We play this game every time now. You've got to be getting value out of this and enjoying this content to do that. I don't want you to just do it just for the sake of it. If you're really enjoying it and you think this is the way to go, and then I can look at it and go, cool, people really like this content, and I can actually then produce more of this stuff for you, because it's difficult to always know what you're getting the most benefits out of. And so thank you so much. We've gone up to 22 thumbs up with 34 people watching. And Scott King, thank you for reminding me that. And we've got Joanne, big thumbs up. And so what we can do now is we're moving through the rest of this little list here. We're nearly to the bottom before we get to the Q&A. If you've got any questions about worm castings, put a big W next to it, right? A W. And then I'll know people aren't chatting amongst each other, and I'll pull it across and I'll answer the questions to do with worm castings. Anything to do with worm castings or worm teas or even the leachates that are coming out of the worm farms, because I've got some more really cool stuff coming up about what comes out of worm farms in content of videos coming up to do with these leachates and things. And there's been controversy about leachates for years and years, and I sort of want to break down some of the myths of the best way to actually use it, which you can actually find in the Worm Wranglers Level 3 members area. That content is already there if you want to get access to that earlier. All right, so let's get into it and move through to Jess Bridges. So remember, just put a W next to it and I will know that it's to do with worm castings. How should I package my vermicompost? Should I seal the bag or bucket or have air holes? I don't want to kill it. Now, that's a really good question, and I'm going to have to cheers you to that because I'm getting thirsty. Now, we want to look at it as we're treating it opposite to how we would treat a chemically synthesized product, right? This is a living, breathing organism. Now, if it does dry right out, what's happening is you'll have some microbes, they'll still be alive in there. I think they just go dormant, unless it's like totally and just turns into dust, then everything's probably would be nearly dead in there other than some of the nutrition that's locked up. So what we try and do is we want to dry it out to about halfway if you're going to store it, so it's still got some moisture locked into it to about 50%. And you'll look at it and you'll see that there's a little like that membrane around the outside. We really don't want to lose that membrane if we can. So it dries out. So what I do is I keep mine in my worm farms, my old worm farms, stored there. Then I just grab handfuls of it out. And you'll see that in next week's video when I do the next planting, how I'm just actually grabbing it out of the worm farms and just using it straight away on my plants. And so that'll be coming up in another planting. But I think brown paper bags is really the way to go. That's the other way that I do it. Or you can put it in like a plastic. If you've got a cool spot, you can put it in a plastic bucket with a couple of breathing holes and just turn it every now and again. If it's too wet, it's going to go anaerobic, and it's better to be more on the little bit dry side sort of thing. So, but you'll find that a material that's around about 50% wet, from my experience, it stores for ages, as long as it's got a little bit of breathing hole there for it. So a bucket would be fine with a lid and a couple of holes in the top, maybe a couple of holes in the side. Don't have it closed off so there's no oxygen in there. And hopefully that helps. And if anyone else wants to answer, to sort of take that further, how they're storing their worm casts, please answer for Jess in the side box there. We're all with the collective community together here, and I think this is the way to go. Now, I did actually miss something on my list here that's really important, and I want to talk about that in the very near future, about a Facebook group. Should we start a Facebook group? This is a question that needs to come forward to the community. So when we get more to the end, remind me on that, someone, and we'll talk about whether we do that or not. And Robert Galantine, Marty, I took worm castings and sowed them into my garden bed. Now I have a surprise. Bed due to all of the seeds that were in the castings. What is the remedy? Do I compost the castings first? Okay, that's another really great question, because the worms don't eat the seeds, right? Because in nature, they actually want to protect the seed. Their whole job is the bacteria and the formation of fungi and everything in the microbes that's stored around their skin. So in the membranous skins, they're passing through the soil, they're leaving microbes behind as well, and in their casting. And so what I try and do this is pretty much what I do other than in my compost tumbler, is I don't put any seed into my food for my worm farms. Unless I want that plant coming up, and then I'll grab it and then I will grow it, because I'm like, that long chili plant, I don't mind if a seed goes in there, and I put it in there and I'll remember, because I'm not putting whole lots of seeds. But this is something that I went through in the beginning stages as well and struggled with at the same time. So try to avoid seed as much as possible in the beginning stages, and only put the seeds in that you want to grow into the future. Question number 2. What's the correct name for worm castings? I've heard vermicompost, worm castings, vermiculite, but I don't know which. Vermicompost is the right terminology for it. So I just call it worm casting here, but vermicompost or vermicast is the two words, the correct terminology. So yeah, they're the ones. And vermiculite is actually like a volcanic material that's puffed up and blown up that they use in potting mixes. So that was a nice one and a great question, because there'll be people wanting to know that as well. And Deborah Jane Dixon, big thumbs up. We have 29 thumbs up, 36 people watching. We're getting close to the number of people watching the thumbs up. So thank you very much. And so read in the questions in the box as well, because some of the people will leave answers to certain things that we're talking about. And we've got a good community story of, this sort of like, how would you put it, a collective of great minds here, putting it together to help me answer these questions as well. Vermicompost and worm castings are the same to me. Yes, the same thing. Vermicast, vermicomposting, worm poop. It's all the same stuff, right? Just different terminology. Happy Gardener, we've got 5 thumbs up. We had a thought. Would you think worms are as old as dinosaurs? Yeah, maybe older. But worms are there. We go. That's already the conversation's going in there. I really like the idea of hydroponic with fishes. Okay, so that's there's another word for that. I just can't think of it. Aquaponics works really great, and they actually do use worms, compost worms, in the aquaponic systems because what they found is when the aquaponic systems have got the different rocks and stuff that the plants are growing in, similar to hydroponics, the roots, they've got to pull the plants out. And this is something that I teach in my gardening, is actually not to pull the whole plant out, it's just to cut it at the base and let the roots then rot, and the worms will come along and the bacteria and everything will start feeding on that and break it down and turn it into humus again. So yeah, they cut it off at the base at the rock there, and then the compost worms that are in the system come through and eat those dead roots. And that way they don't have to clean out the system and remove the rocks all the time. And so, yeah, they play a bigger role than we think, right? And they do that in nature as well. I saw the video from last night. Yeah, cool. And hopefully you guys like that. It's like it's my top. I have like this rating of 10 videos every month, and it tells me which one's the best, people like the most, perform the best, and it come out at number 10 this morning for the worst one. But I think basically what's happening is that YouTube has an algorithm that goes, right, you're searching worm farming, so I just give you more worm farming, and you're not so much searching the gardening side of stuff, so it doesn't know where to split it up in between. So the channel struggles a little bit then, because it doesn't actually send out that information. So if you watch my gardening videos and you watch it right from the beginning to the end, and you start watching every one, and you watch it as long as possible, because that helps the channel and then helps YouTube understand that you like that piece of content, it will then feed you my content as it comes out. Unless you're like a subscriber and you click that bell button to get notified for everything, even then you mightn't get notified for everything. So that's the way to do it. Keep watching those videos, and then it'll get that roll going. It'll help the channel actually become not only a worm farming channel, but how to use this amazing waste and grow amazing plants with it, and get that out to the community, out to the world, to people to learn more about it. Colby. And early bedtime for me. Good night, Colby. Thanks, mate, so much for coming, mate, and sleep well. Russell Booglitz. Not only water preservation, but also fish as food. You got worms versus the world. What is your recipe that you give to your worms for the best castings? Now, I've got too many. Now, the best thing to do is have a wide array of food, right? Give them as much variation as possible. That way you're creating as many different types of bacteria in the system, and that way you'll end up with the best worm casting. Now, to get the worms breeding more, you need to have a supply of some type of proteins in there. So that gets them nice and strong, gets them doing the dingle dingle and laying more cocoons. And so protein. So a wide array of foods is best, and some type of protein. Oats is good, any type of grains and things like that for proteins. Jess Bridges. I would turn my whole condo into a vermiculture hydroponic system if my husband would let me. Yeah, well, cool. Maybe you can get one of those mini ones where you can go sort of vertical. An aquaponic system. You can get little ones with goldfish and things like that. You want to play around with it, go for it. Time to plant those strawberries out. Definitely. Yep, they're ready to go. And I'm going to do I'm waiting to get the video ready, and I'm going to plant them out and put it in the content and talk about what I'm doing in the future of the strawberries, because I've got all these different coloured strawberries coming in. I think there's a pink one, some type of a black one, and some others. So hopefully they grow well, and I can show you the different variations of the strawberries and how I'm growing them, because being shallow rooted, they're really good in vermicompost. But we'll talk about that more in the videos coming up. How long has everyone been raising worms? I've been doing it for a year. 2 bins, red wigglers and ENCs. Yeah, please let us know in the comments box. We'd love to hear that too. And I'd like to know also, who's been using the castings yet, or are you getting ready to use the castings in the garden? I'd like to know that as well. Thank you very much, Happy Gardener. Good info. Glad to be of service and glad to be of help. Now, the people that have come in later, I just want to let you know that if you're into using your waste, so the stuff that's coming out of the kitchen and turning it into, putting into worm farms and then turning into an amazing fertilizer that is bio-rich and actually helps the plants and what's in the ground below speak to each other and then photosynthesize, and you're using this stuff and you're saving heaps of money at the same time. There's a course in here in the Worm Wranglers members area, and you'll find it in links below any of my videos. I'm going to have to put a link in below here. You can see it also beside the subscribe button if you're on PCs and Macs and things like that. And Worm Wranglers is like level 1, 2, and 3. You can go in and do a little trial. You get a few little videos to get you started. Number 2 has Starting Organic Seedlings, a beginner's guide, and then if you go to number 3, you get everything. You get all the videos, the 2 courses, Starting Organic Seedlings, a beginner's guide, and then Starting a Worm Farming, a beginner's guide, some intermediate videos, and then the live shows. Eventually they go from here over to there, and they're stored in there, so you can go through and watch all that content. And as I was speaking about it, maybe a Facebook page, not a Facebook page, a Facebook group for Worm Wranglers. We're at about 42 members now. I don't know if that's enough to really make it sort of roll, but it's a conversation that I want to have for sure. And that would be based around worm farming and the gardening side of worm farming. So mixing it together and the results that people are getting with their plants and in their gardens, how they're farming their worms, worm farming questions, things like that, so you can get the optimum results using the stuff that valuable resource coming out of the worm farms to grow amazing plants. And you'll find that I think it's a conversation that I'd like to have where we need to actually move that across. All right, so let's keep moving here. Jess Bridges. I've been raising worms for 3 months now. I started with 350, and when I checked yesterday, I'm pretty sure I'm well past 1,000. There are more babies than I can count. That is absolutely brilliant, Jess. And you'll find that, every 3 months you'll start doubling. And, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on conditions and things. But, so you're probably, now you're at 1,000. and you're using a normal sort of size worm farm, I would be getting ready to think about another system to actually, because the big ones, all the parents are going to start to want to leave because if there's lots of babies in there, that's what they do. They'll migrate out of the system. So you may need to put another tier on top as well and leave a lot of the sort of the vermicompost down below with a little bit of food down below, and then put your next tier on top. And so the parents will start cruising up into the next spot, because once they get overloaded with babies, they want to leave their food there. So hopefully that helps you, Jess, and anyone else that's watching the show as well. It's a world of wealth here on the Marty's Garden show for worm farming, right? On a Saturday, 9:30 a.m. here, Sydney, Australia time. So if you're digging it, give me a big thumbs up. 42 people watching, 32 thumbs up. And if you would like to, I'd appreciate it. You can leave a super chat. Any small donation is absolutely perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. I do love it because it helps me grow the channel, and it's the support from you guys. And you'll see it just below the box there where we've got the little chat box, and you can do it easily there. Just follow the information provided. All right, so we'll keep going. I don't want to miss anything. Occasionally I do. If I do, just write it down again. Do you screen your castings before use? No, not really. Not generally not. You can though. There's something that I think is really important here. If we're making a compost, right, and I'm going to teach this on my channel as well. If we're making a compost, sometimes it's not a good idea to remove all the castings from inside the worm farm that is a compost. So because it's composted down, some of the bacteria has broken down some of the material, and the worms haven't gone through and eaten that part yet. It's sort of composted itself. You're better off using that with your whole system, because that's still got beneficial bacteria and microbes and beneficial nematodes in it, right? So you actually grab a handful of that. Don't worry if it's only 50% worm cast. If it looks like it's broken down, it's ready to go, use it. It's valuable stuff. And yeah, so think of it sort of like it's this biology bomb. More so we're trying to get away from the mindset of going one little worm cast is equal to one little NPK ball. It's a whole different thing, and that's sort of what I'm trying to get across here in this message. So I don't generally screen them unless, like I've been doing a very woody material and there's big pieces of wood and bark and stuff left over, and then I'll screen that out and I'll use that somewhere else. So hopefully that's answered that question for you quite well. Scott King, W. Just let me have a little drink here, Scott. We're at, how many minutes have we gone into now? We're at 42 minutes, 55 seconds, 40 people watching, 33 thumbs up. Thank you everyone for coming to watch the show. It's been amazing so far, and I believe there's been a world of wealth go out already. This has been really eye-opening, not only for me, because it gets me thinking as we're talking about these conversations about what I can produce for extra content for you guys, what you want to know about, and also people dropping other little bombs in the chat box and things, and gets me thinking. And also, I learn from that as well. So thank you so much. Scott King. What always confused me is collecting the castings without getting or hurting the worms. I understand worms hate sunlight and usually stay in bedding bin to eat. But does this actually work? Yes, it does. And Scott, I teach this full method, the professional method of something similar to what you're talking about here in the Worm Wranglers members area, the level 3 area. I don't teach it so much on my channel because it's a bit like if I started teaching everything from my book. Say, for example, I had a book out there, then no one would buy the book, sort of thing. So I have that available there, and it's $15, cheaper than a pizza, and there's you've got 2 other courses in there and more. Everything's broken down, so everything from worm farming A to Z is in there for small space worm farmers or urban worm farmers that are just using those small systems. And yeah, that will show you how to do it, and you'll just go, oh wow, that's really easy, and I'll just do that every time, and that's how I can collect my castings. So I do get asked that question quite a lot, but I just don't. It's the only place I don't share it. Pretty much 99% everything else I nearly share here, except what's in my course available on my channel next to the join. And there's a lot of people here that have come in here and have done that course and have learned a lot and benefited from it, and taking it to the next level. And thank you very much, Robert. Teresa Bear, hi from Arizona, USA. G'day, Teresa. Lovely to see you here again. Happy Gardener, yes, on Facebook. I think we might be looking at the possibility of starting a group in there, but I haven't heard, no one sort of, as I'm scrolling through, I haven't really heard anything if people are interested in that yet. I'm not going to go and start a group if it's going to be a dead sort of group, they're just boring, dead groups, no one comes back. Worms versus the world. I have worms in my aquaponics. Last year, when I did my worms, multiplied like crazy. Yeah, I've heard that they work really well in aquaponic systems. And people get worried about because there's like these flashes. Oh, excuse me. That's what happened in the live show. Bit of a hiccup there. So what happened, they're flushing the water with the nitrates to nitrites, nitrites to nitrates. Tell me if I'm getting that wrong. And then sort of water moves through quickly. And it doesn't hurt the worms at all. They actually really like getting a bit of a dousing and keeping nice and moist. And yeah, they're laying their castings around the root zone as well. So whatever's coming out of the fish, for the fish poop that's turning into the fertilizer, also it's getting left behind and building the biology and stuff like that inside the system. And the worms are doing that. They're actually helping with the whole process. Chris Ruwald, any kitchen scraps with seeds, I freeze first. Freezing usually destroys the cells, so kills the seed. That's a really good tip, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing that. That really helps people a lot. And as I said, this place is a world of wealth, and it's amazing what you can learn when you turn up to one of my live shows. Something you think, you go, wow, I never thought of that. I wouldn't have even asked that question. And then boom, it's like this thing goes off, and you go, right, I'm going to do that. Russell Bublitz, casting storage. I use 55 gallons barrels with tarps as covers in the wintertime. I also use trash cans with 1/4-inch holes drilled in at cardinal points, 1/4-inch under the lid, or I like now, and I fill super sacks. Yeah, cool. So if you're doing like this sort of like the larger bins, a bit like my biggest worm farms ever, where you drill holes in the lids and then you drill holes in the side, and that creates this vacuum where the air moves through. And you might want to go down to the middle and maybe even drill another hole down the middle either side. That will create more airflow. So you've got this vacuum going through. You don't have to have a lot of holes, but if you've got the vacuum more than just holes in the top, you've just only got air coming out, that will help much better. So that's another way. Thank you so much for sharing that, Russell. That really helps people. Doing the dingle, linoleum. Oh, you've lost me there, Teresa. I don't know what the dingle-lingle is. Sorry, mate. You're well. Chris, yeah, giving out the tips. Yeah, thanks, Chris. Jeff Bridges. I freeze my scraps and mix Vitamix. I freeze my scraps, then Vitamix them. So they are thoroughly pulverized. I strain the slush and then freeze it in silicone molds. That way I control the moisture as I add the pucks of food. Yeah, I think that's a really good way to go, and I've seen other people do that. My neighbour actually does that and gets great results. And yeah, she did my course, and I remember I went over there to have a look at her worms. She called me over one day, and they'll go, wow, man, you've got these amazing worm farms. How come your worms are doing so good? What do you do? And I was a bit blown away, and she goes, I did your course. And I'm like, oh, like, right, you didn't even tell me. I was like, how'd you know all this stuff? Because, yeah, she's just absolutely smashing it. And she does that. She uses the cubes, something similar to that as well. And it gets really, especially like in the summertime when it's hot, right? Owain's worm farm. About 8 months for me taking care of my wormeries. 8 months for worm farming? Awesome. Well, looks like you're not going to be stopping now. Worms versus the world. I've been raising worms off and on for 5 years, but the last couple of years have been more focused on it, using castings in my garden whenever I have some. Yeah, so that's a great thing of it, like, and now you're more focused on it, you'll get more castings, and, it'll go from there. And, as we know, worms multiply quite rapidly, and then we end up with more castings. And so, yeah. Yes, a Facebook group that has plenty of members. And that's what I think too. If we have plenty of members, I'll just keep bringing it up and see if that's the direction, if people would like that. So I do get asked for it, but I've only had a handful of people. And yeah, Worm Wranglers here, not on Facebook. Okay, good point. Gary Darrell. I'd like to, like the beta, this is basically the members area here for the worm rate. This is still like in beta from YouTube, and it would be unreal. Like the bots and everything are listening to these sort of like these systems now, and they actually record our voices. And so, if they can hear this, YouTube, if you can hear this, we want a members area where we can actually go in and drop photos, and we can talk and chat to each other inside these communities. And let us know if you can do that. We'd really like to know, because I would much prefer to keep it all on the one platform, and I've always tried to do that. And that's one reason why I'm a bit skeptical of going off into somewhere like Facebook to do that. Billy May, I want to get a second farm. I know that's bugger all compared to you. That's all good, man. Like I started off with one farm 12 years ago or something now. And you just start from there. You're better off starting off small and growing out. If you go out too fast and get overwhelming and too many problems in your car, it's too much work. And then you got nothing. You're better off having one farm and just go, I can deal with 2 farms now. That's enough for me. I think I'll do 3. That's enough for me. You just decide where you want to be. And then it goes to, but I want one for the lawn. And I've made so many more garden beds. I have 2 composts, but I need another worm barn. So look at maybe using your compost systems as worm farms as well. I've got a video, worm farm compost tumbler video. If you go into my channel and search compost tumbler, I'm pretty sure it'll come up there. Biggest worm farms ever are sort of like big compost systems. And you'll find that you'll be able to expand out pretty easily then. And for your lawn, you need a lot of castings to spread out into lawn. I'm more into like getting like a spray pack and making a worm tea and then spraying the lawn in certain times of the year and building up, so you're feeding the soil, the bacteria as it's dripping down the leaves and into the soil profile. For sure, add some worm castings if you have it, but a faster method overall is to create the liquid. So hopefully that helps, Billy. And if anyone wants to leave a super chat, please do so. You can leave a small donation right below the comments box here, and it really helps the channel grow and stay on track. So thank you for that. If you are going to do one, happy gardener, the Friday afternoon on the west coast of USA. Lisa, here we go. I'm proud to say I've been worm farming 20 years. Wow, that is unreal. That is so cool. It's been around for a very long time, right? And it hasn't really sort of like hit that thing where it's become trendy or anything like that. But I believe that if we get the right information out there and we sort of start spreading it, it is widely searched on YouTube, believe it or not. It's like it's a very competitive niche, but all the material that's being taught is same all the time. No one's expanding out and trying to take it further to these edges where it needs to go. And it can be quite risky, and that's why a lot of YouTubers don't want to do it, right? Because then people don't watch it and it can affect their channel, and then I'm thinking, oh, no one watched my video. Like it happens to me, right? I'm like, oh, bummer. It's true. It's really quite demanding on you. But again, it goes back for me. I'm like, why am I doing this? The reasons why. I'm turning waste into something valuable and helping people cut down wastes. Whatever reason they're doing it, they're cutting down waste and giving away the worm casting or just throwing out into their lawn. But they're still removing waste from going out to landfill. And at the same time, they can take it that one step further and turn it into amazing organic plants like I was showing you a little while ago, such as these strawberries that I'm growing here that need to be planted out. We've got the black strawberries and the pink strawberries from Japan on the way. Look at those little babies. Well, dripping on me. I better put them back down there. And then we can keep moving forward. So, yeah, we're going to give you a celebration applause. 20 years of worm farming deserves to be celebrated. On you, Lisa. Top stuff. Deborah Jane Dixon. Very helpful, Marty. Info about the larger worms leaving the young. You're very welcome. Very welcome. Question, Owain's worm farm. Is there a difference in breeding in a tower system as opposed to a flow-through system? No, not really. They're breeding and leaving their cocoons where they want to go. A lot of time they'll leave the cocoons on the top depending on where the moisture and the food is and things. So not really a difference, I would say. It's the same but different is really the common saying for that. I'm just going to go back to my list here and make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, I think we've pretty much covered everything from what I can see here. We pretty much have. And the only thing I probably missed was applications, but we've really been talking about applications through the whole show. And so, you know, like applying onto gardens and things like that twice a year. It lives in the soil for around about 6 months, and you're putting it underneath your leaf litter, scratching it in underneath your mulch zone. Don't throw it on top of the mulch because it will just dry out and become useless. You want to put it underneath the mulch zone, or if you're putting in a pot plant, you want to scratch it into the first top 2.5 centimeters to inch. And every time you're watering it, it's slow releasing, and the roots can find it, and the rest of the microbes and bacteria and everything can start working in together in a coordinated way, which it does, or speaking to each other. So that's pretty much it for that. So we can just fire away with questions. W for worm, for anything to do with vermicompost, vermicast, worm casting, which is the same thing as worm poop. It's all the same stuff, just the different words. Or a Q. If you want to whack anything to do with worm farming, put a Q next to it for a question, and I will fire away with the best answer I can. Or someone else in here will also help too. Billy May. I love the Saturday people that all get here and talk. I'm sure the Worm Wranglers group is the same though. Well, Billy, this is pretty much the Worm Wranglers group. We don't have any sort of like place where we have like a members area or anything yet. I'm hoping that YouTube will bring one out, and then we would have somewhere where it could go for. They may be doing something like that. I've heard nothing of it. And again, I don't want to take my audience away to somewhere like Facebook if I can, because there's just so many things going on there. It's just distraction, right? They just want to get your attention, and all of a sudden, I've lost you in some Facebook cosmos, you know. So, I want to keep you here on YouTube where I hang out mostly. But thank you for that. I really do appreciate it, Billy. And it's a great place to come. So pretty much we just hang out here on Saturday mornings. The Marty's Garden Show. And we may, if things change with work and this whole COVID thing shuts down and the Sydney stuff and my co-worker can get back to work, we may do a Thursday one as well in the future. Question, do the night crawlers prefer a carbony system compared to the tigers prefer a more nitrate system? So tigers, so we red wigglers, the Sina fetida, and the other ones that are sort of like, that like to be sort of like they're horizontal feeders that like to be in a more nitrogenous system. They like carbon as well, but they prefer the more sort of like scrappy sort of food, from vegetables and manures and things. Night crawlers love a carbony system, a little bit more carbony, but also they will eat all that other material as well we're talking about. So they just prefer, so if you can get like a good blend of sort of like carbon to nitrogen mix, you can have both together. I have them both together and there's no problem, but you've just got to understand what one wants more than other and get your bedding right just for that. So if you're going more for tigers, you still need a carbon bedding anyway for the bedding. So there's a fine line between the two, if you know what I mean. I think sometimes we get a bit too carried away and worry about it too much, to tell you the truth. Deborah Jane Dixon. Where should I get my worms from? I'm in Sydney in lockdown, so they will need to be posted. Go to, let me think, what's the name? Let's have a quick drink of water. In one of my videos, let me think about that for a second. I'm just got to think of the name. But in one of my videos, it says worm farming expert shares his knowledge. Down below, you'll find a link. Just scroll right down. You'll find a link. I'm pretty sure there's a link there to his to his worms. If not, please let me know. Question me again later below this video, Deborah, and I will then put the link, or I'll give you the name of his website, and he will post them off to you. He sends them off once or twice a week, and really good quality worms. It's where I get my stock from. Unless it comes to me, the name in a minute. Thinking too many things at once. 41 likes, everyone. Woo! 41 likes and 45 people watching. Thank you so much for coming and giving us a big thumbs up and coming to watch the show. Facebook page, yes, from Scotty King. Yeah, okay. Well, there's another one. But we'll see. We have to get quite a few yet before I'll take that. I already have one group already over in Facebook that's managed by other people. Small Space Veggie Gardening Australia. Some great people in there running it for me. And YAS, a super chat, $4.99 from your airport shuttle. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm pretty sure you've done a super chat for me before. So, wow. I'm going to have to give it an applause. We got the artificial crowd going. The kids are clapping, and I am grateful and extremely happy. Thank you so much for that. And really, every little super chat for these live shows really does help quite a lot. A lot of work goes into putting these together, believe it or not. I spend 2.5 hours each morning before I'm even ready to go to get these ready for the information for you guys. Setting up lights, microphones, cleaning up the house so we've got sort of, and getting our scripts and formulas together so we can create a good show. Trissa Bear, you're saying the dingle line when we talk about worm love. Okay. And there's my father. Just saying hello, Marty. G'day after Thomas Ware, who's my dad. And thank you so much for coming and watch the show, Dad. It's good to see you here again. Joe, no. I have 2 compost bins, trash cans with tons of holes drilled in them on cinder blocks on top of concrete, and somehow worms got into them. No complaints here. Mother Nature is amazing. In some places, there are, like, compost worms do run free naturally now. Like, you'll find them around landscaping places where they store mushroom and cow manure and horse manure. You'll find them now around horse ranches and things. They come in like years and years ago, even with probably sometimes somewhere with the first fleet would have come in some as well in the stock foods and things like that, because they've had them in Europe and stuff for quite a long time. And they follow people around. So wherever there's people and there's waste, we have compost worms generally coming around, even if they're not native to the area. So, yeah, some people are lucky enough to have them around. They can trap them and they're attracted in. So, yeah, that'd be good. A Facebook page would be nice. So if we do that, it would be a group. I've just got to think about it a bit more, mate. And whether it's like just for Worm Wrangler members, because this Marty's Garden, I always mention this all the time, Marty's Garden is a small business. And so everything sort of, it's got to make a little bit of a profit. Otherwise, I'm not going to go there. That's the honest truth. Because if I go in those directions where I had before, I find that I run out of cash flow and all of a sudden we're back to square one. So it's a difficult one to do, and whether we make that direction. But Scott King, thanks for the answers. Slow down, Marty. Slow down. I'm going to slow down. Thanks for the answers, Marty. Great knowledge. And look forward to more in the Worm Wranglers. I'll definitely look into it. See you soon in the next video. I'm just heading out in the garden for the day. Well, thanks so much for coming, Scott. Appreciate you, and enjoy your time out in the garden. Candy Crush Addict. Morning, Marty. I'm not on Facebook, and YouTube is more popular. I think it's much better on here. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the input. That's the direction that I am thinking as well. And look, if I ever get a chance to speak at anyone on YouTube, I will be bringing that up. I want to keep it on the same platform. Deborah Jane Dixon, I would love a members group where I could ask questions. See, that's the thing. We've got this problem where we can't have the questions, or people can't share their images. Some people want to email me things and things like that, but then it just takes up too much of my time. I really don't have the time to go through emails and all that, and send photos backwards and forwards. But it's something that definitely I'm just bringing up, and we'll see where it can lead to into the future. Billy May, thanks for the advice. The other thing we can do in the Worm Wranglers members area is probably have like a Q&A video or a Q&A live show or something. I don't know. I'll think about it. I've got to come up with something. Candy Crush Addict. I have a regular supply of worm compost and from my compost bins, and every few months it's time to top up raised beds. Good cycling going for me. Yeah. So it's basically we're creating this recycled loop, right? It's an enclosed loop. So when we're actually when we're harvesting our plants that we're eating from the garden, and there's bits of scrappy stuff left or whatever, that goes back into the worm farms, and we're creating this enclosed loop. And that's what I'm all about, is this enclosed loop of creating this fresh food, turning our waste into something valuable. And believe it or not, it's actually, the more we do that, the better our compost and our vermicompost becomes, because we're building up biology. And my windrow now has been running for around about 3 years now, and there's more of a wider array of bacteria in there now than there was, say, a year and a half ago, because I'm continually breeding and adding different foods in there, and the worm population's getting bigger and new fungi are moving in and that. So yeah, it does definitely get better over time, and it doesn't matter about scale. It can just be a compost tumbler. Every time you're adding new food and throwing in a bit of carbon, you're adding new bacteria and things. That's why I recommend that you don't get in there and wash out your compost tumbler and your worm farms at the end. You want to leave a bit of the material still in there, so you're keeping that live bacteria still in the system. And avoid using any type of chlorines and things in your worm farms. Keep on going, Marty. You're teaching me loads. That's great. Well, I'm learning too along the way, so it's great for all of us. Teresa Bear, props to you for the daily videos. That's a lot of content to put out. Cute children clapping for Marty. Yeah, okay. Because of work and the COVID thing and my partner at work, I'm filling in most of her shifts at the moment, so I can't do the daily vlogging at the moment, and so that's a bit unfortunate. But I'm trying to get out as many as I can and still create as much content as I can for you guys that I believe is valuable and is going to provide a good lesson for you as well, so you can implement it at home too, right? Gary Darrell. Question: I received 2 dump truck loads, mostly sand with a lot of plant matter within it. Should I add the worms to the piles to vermicompost? Should I add the worms to the piles to vermicompost, the plant matter? Yeah, if it's too sandy, just be a little bit careful. But if it's holding a lot of moisture, yes, do that. You can actually get like one of your trays of your worm farms and just stick it in a section, start feeding that and see if they start moving out into it. Like a bit like an underground worm farm. They do start moving out into it, then you'll know that material's okay and they like it. So it's a good idea to just get a section of the worm farm and do that and keep them in there instead of releasing them at the first time. And then you'll get used to it and you'll observe and know what's right and wrong and how they perform at your place. So hopefully that helps. Some type of underground worm farm system added to it first. I'll have to say you inspired me to get back into worm farming after dropping the ball for several years. Oh, great. That's great. I do inspire people to get back into it, because once they see the benefits and they learn more about the value of it, of turning this waste into something wonderful, into something valuable, then yeah, it's just like it starts rolling. And then you see, once you start doing it, you're going, wow, why did I ever stop, right? Russell Bublitz. I started playing with worms in 1986. I've had them outside ever since, indoors, on and out throughout the years. Well, that's quite some time, Russell. We're going to have to give you an applause for that as well. I wish There they go again, those kids. They love giving applauses out whenever they can. Yeah, so well done, mate, and that's just great. And obviously you've got a world of knowledge, and I appreciate you coming and watching my videos and other people and supporting their channels based on worm farming. It's really great. All right, so what have we got here? 45 thumbs up, 42 people watching. We've gone over the number of thumbs up to the people watching, because people come and go. Most people stay around about 20 minutes and then they sort of head on their way. So what we'll do is we'll keep moving through. Here we've got another question from Deborah Jane Dixon. I'm in Sydney and in lockdown. I want to buy some worms. Where should I get them online? So get back to me. We just answered that before. So what you need to do is at the end of this video, leave a question below the video, and then I will remember. Worm Biz. So biz, B-I-Z, wormbiz.com.au. Boom, it come to me. Great worms. If you want to buy any compost worms, let them know. And let them know you got them through my channel too, because we're mates, me and Peter.
and he has a great product. And who knows, he'd throw in some extra worms for you if you said that as well. I'm pretty sure he would. I won't do without the late Friday night, early Saturday morning show. I benefit from it a lot, and guests. Yeah, thank you very much, Owain's Worm Farm. It's always nice to see you here. David Morgan. I have a worm tower and 4 outdoor compost bins. 1 hot compost bin and 3 others that I put the cooled down compost in and add the worms from the tower when it gets fully used up from the sump. Yeah, so a really good way, if you've got like an outdoor compost bin that's hot, once it's cooled down, you can then add the worms to it, then they will go through it. And that's basically something that I do when I'm on my windrow and how I sell my end product that goes out to the locals. So you can, I think there's the Outdoor Urban Windrow Project is the videos that you need to search on YouTube to learn and watch and more about that. And I'm pretty sure there's a playlist there for you as well. Well, there is a playlist. You can find that and go right through. Barry Watler, unsure about Facebook, although I'm technically challenged, was a part of a group on Facebook and was full of rubbish. I can watch the worms for the next 3 days. We are going into lockdown. Yeah, it's a tricky one, mate. I want to keep it in YouTube for now. So we're just really having the conversation about whether people want to have something like this, some type of group. Jess Bridges, super sticker, $9.99 from Jess Bridges. Lemon character doing a victory dance with maracas in his hand. I can't see it because I'm on software. I'm not actually inside YouTube. I'm on software that sort of like puts it out into YouTube. But thank you so much. I'm sure everyone else can see it. And that is just so cool, Jess. And we're going to give you an applause for that. We appreciate you. My crowd, they just love it. They love giving the little cheers. And I thank you with all my heart from that as well. And like I said, I get a handful of these super chats, and it really does help me with the channel to be able to keep producing content for you guys. All these little bits from the Worm Wranglers members area, my AdSense, and then the super chats. It comes to me at the end of the month, and I'm extremely grateful for anything that I can get. Hello from Europe. Can I mix worm species? Causa, yes, you can. You can mix them together as long as they're like wherever you are in Europe, what type they, like I think Acina foetida, which is the red wrigglers, would do really well, and probably the European night crawlers would do really well mixed together. You would have no problem. And maybe some others that can handle a bit of cooler climate, depending on where you are in Europe, obviously. And no, thank you. Thank you, Jane. And here we go, another super chat, $7.99 from Deborah Jane Dixon. Well, thank you so much. We are going to have to do this again. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you, and I appreciate you, and again, from the bottom of my heart. And if I can, it's just unreal that we can give out so much value in these live shows, and then I get some value back in response. And so thank you very much. I do really appreciate it. Chris Rewalt, Deborah, if you're in the Shire, I can spare a few of my worms. Well, there you go, mate. There you go. If you're in the Shire, Chris Rewalt just may share you some worms. I'm pretty sure he would. A big hello, because he wouldn't have said it otherwise, right? So thanks, Chris, for that. And be careful, though, because you'll get all these people turning up and then you'll have no worms there. Owain's Worm Farm. A big hello to Mr. West Senior. Yes, Mr. West Senior. He'll get a good laugh out of that. Jan Harrell, a burlap bag to store castings is good. Yeah, burlap's really good material to store castings. Thank you so much for sharing that. Lots of airflow, holds the bacteria, really great material, and we should really have more burlap bags around. Plastic took over. Bring back the burlap, I say. We need to have like this hashtag, bring back the burlap, yeah? I love the stuff. Joe, no. Yes, sharing photos would be nice. There shouldn't be an expectation of you to respond to all my emails and messages. No, there isn't. I just can't get to them. But I try to do my very best, right? Owain's Worm Farm. Does this live stream count as a members group? I guess it does, really. At the moment, it's pretty much all we have, really, at the moment. And that's why I do remember that. Now. I'm losing my mind, man. Do remember that I said. I do actually mention that quite often, that this is the place where on Saturday mornings, 9:30 Sydney Australia time, where we all meet up, us worm wranglers, and we have a chat and we talk about, I have some type of education at the beginning, and then we get right into this Q&A, and it's always been really great. Beatrice Martin, super chat from Beatrice Martin, $5. Thank you so much, Beatrice. Amazing stuff, and I appreciate it. And so does my fan club, my artificial fan club that like to give us the claps. They appreciate it too, and everyone else, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Beatrice, and you have a lovely day. And yeah, it's just been amazing, the super chats today, and we appreciate you. I appreciate you, truly do. And Green Man's Garden, best way to start a farm for breeding for numbers to expand into more worm bins. Let me have a little drink. Usually when I'm having a drink of water, I'm thinking, I'm processing at the same time. Let's break this up. A best way to start a farm for breeding for numbers to expand. So I'm bringing out some videos on tray worm farming, and they're basically little breeding boxes. And I'm going to be teaching that sort of mixed in with my worm farming videos, and talking about the type of casting and the quality of the casting, and also breeding these guys up. So for the moment, I would say just start feeding them a good array of food, right? A good array of food, so they've got the good bacteria and they're nice and healthy, but also look at a protein that you can feed them as well. And also look at the possibility of feeding them a compost too. If you've got like compost that you can add to the beddings, that really helps. And you'll find that you'll get better breeding, because they love laying the cocoons in areas where there's a lot of moisture and there's a bit of food trapped around. So the tray worm farming, I think we're going to take that to the next level if people watch it. If people stop watching them, I don't produce them, because then it just messes up my channel. But it looks as though people like that type of stuff. So just think having a good quality bedding and a good quality food, and also you need to have feed them some type of grains, that I'm losing the words for it now. But yeah, you need to feed them a lot of different grains and things. Like you can feed them like rice, oats, stuff like that. And anything that builds muscle for us, proteins, will help them with that. Wormbiz was the name of your supplier. Yes, that's right, Wormbiz, Candy Crush Addict. I think maybe you got some from Wormbiz, but you're in WA, aren't you? Can I, guys, just put a Q in front of the questions, because it really helps me sort of like be able to read in the software what's going on when people are chatting and when people aren't chatting, and then I know what to pull across. But we've got a question here. Can I mix the fat jumping worms with red wigglers and ANC? Yeah, you can mix them all in together. There's no problem. Sometimes you'll find that you'll get a dominant compost worm though in the mixes, because that's the best one that performs in that area. But I have pretty much all mine mixed in together, and occasionally I try to pull them out aside, but generally I'll have some cocoons lying around and all of a sudden I've got new ones coming through. So generally most of mine are mixed, but in certain areas like my windrows where there's more carbon, I'll have more night crawlers, and then where there's more sort of nitrogenous material, there'll be more tigers and things like that. So certain areas, certain things, they'll breed in spaces which they prefer. But yeah, you can mix them. Cause I'm in Europe, I mix the species, the red wigglers and the European night crawlers together. They do just fine, that's right. And here we go, we'll just keep firing away there. Hope you don't get the clap from the artificial clappers. Time to do the evening gardening. Keep up the great work, Marty. Well, thanks for coming in, Joe. Really appreciate you. We're just about to finish up now anyway. So if you've got any questions that you want to fire away before we leave, then please do so. Remember, we're talking about worm castings or any type of worm farming question that you may have, or a garden-related worm farming question also as well. And then we will roll it off, because we've been running for 1 hour and 19 minutes and I'm starting to lose my voice now. We've still got 41 people here, 47 thumbs up. So if you're still here, hang on, because someone will still have a question. We're generally about 30 seconds, 20 seconds behind. And that way the question gives me a little time. I'll have a little drink for the questions to come through in case we want to get to everyone. Yeah, and go from there. You're very welcome, Green Man's Garden. Hello from North Carolina. G'day T-Mac from North Carolina. Do you ever mix chicken manure with your worms, or is it too hot? I've got some videos. Go back and check about this. They're pretty recent ones. There's two to do with chickens and worms, and all the answers are in there for you. It's a bit of a long process and a bit too hard to answer in here, but it's a very good material, but it's very hard to work with. Causa, thanks for your videos. I like them a lot. Well, you're very welcome, Causa, and thanks for turning up to the live show. We have live shows every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Sydney, Australia time. And in the near future, we may do another Thursday one, depending on workflow and things like that. Still looking at that, the possibility of doing that. Still filling in some shifts from my other co-worker who's locked away in COVID at the moment and can't get to work because they're in lockdown. So, yeah, we will just keep moving forward and do what we can. And I can't do daily videos again because, boom, pretty much the same question. Just too much going on at work with my part-time job. Can I mix efficient microorganisms EM4 with Vermi-T? Really enjoy the content, Marty. Yes, I believe so. I don't really, I'm not an expert in that field. All I know is that if you're breeding more microbiology, why not? The more the merrier, I say. Basically, anything in the soil web, sort of like in the microbiology, so in the soil web, it's all feeding on each other and it's dying and breeding. And, some things are dying and breeding in seconds and other things are staying around for weeks, hours, days, months. And, it's just years even. And, it's always changing and evolving so quickly. And you'll find that the microbiology in your land will be different to someone else. But when we're feeding our worms a wide array of food, we're building up more microbes. Then the worms are eating it through their gut, holding in their bacteria. They're transforming it into this super powerful, like giving it its nutrient, like an overload, and then expelling it as a worm casting, which breaks down as a biology bomb and then actually releases its nutrition and biology to the land around it. And the worms are our trucks, is what we're talking about today, is the worms are our little transport, right? And they're actually moving that biology around for the plants. And what the plants are doing then is they're actually like photosynthesizing and sharing that light into sugars down below. And then everything down below is working on that. And the plants with the enzymes, and I've got it written down, growth hormones and things, so they're all sort of like speaking to each other and helping the plant grow. And so that's how we work. So we're looking away from NPK and we're looking at growth hormones, growth accelerators, enzymes, different types of bacteria and microbes and fungi in the soil that all work together to help plants grow. We need to steer away from things that poison the land and move towards things that heal the land by using our waste, something that we normally throw out, and turning it into something valuable that can create an amazing garden around us and food for us and save a lot of money at the same time. I save a lot of money by not having to go out and buy a lot of herbs and things like cook and stuff, using all my herbs. The flavors are just insane. You don't even have to be a great cook if you've got good herbs at home, right? Because the flavors just come through. Let's answer this one. I keep shrimps in aquariums, and when I clean out the sponges, I have too many plants. I put them in the wormery, and the worms seem to love it. Must be a lot of, yeah, they do. Like anything to do with roots, especially when I've got my trays growing with my plants, and I'm going to show that in future videos if people are interested. And I basically get the whole tray, and then like I've harvested all the plants. I tray farm as well to grow my own food, and I've done it for restaurants and things in the past. And when I throw that tray in, all that beneficial bacteria that's built up around the roots is then fed back to the system, and they just go ballistic on it. I've really got to film it. I'm going to do it this spring and just to show you guys how amazing it is. So yeah, I'm sure it works really great for you, Causa. Okay, so we're going to start finishing up now. Owain's Worm Farm's off to bed. Good night, mate. Thank you so much for coming and always being here, and I really appreciate you. Craig Lau, what's the best way to get rid of white worm invasion in worm farm, and how do I prevent them from returning? Stop overfeeding, more carbon, and you'll find that I think you're talking about a potworm. You've got a little bit, they're always there. It's an over explosions is generally from overfeeding and the worm farm probably being too wet, I would say. Barry Watley, good on you, mate. Another top effort as always. Learning, have a good weekend, and cheers, everyone. And cheers. Well, thank you, everyone, so much for coming. Really appreciate you. We've got 39 people watching here, 48 thumbs up. What I do now is I put on some music and we say goodbye to each other in the chat box. People have made friends in here. We've got this amazing community that turns up this once a week, and I want to give you the best time to say goodbye. And what we'll do is I'll drag this one across from Robbie. I'll put some music on, and then I'll bring across all the comments of people saying goodbye to me and then to other people, and we go with the music. So here we go, the theme song. Robbie Marino. Thanks, Marty and Worm Wranglers. Have a great week and see you all next Saturday. Bye for now. If you love this song, hang around. It's a great song. It'll inspire you through the day to walk away happy, healthy, turning your waste into something valuable. It's a good song. I love this song.
With our loved ones close, you can pick out every star without a telescope. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, you know, everything we've lost comes home again, and I will
say goodbye to each other in the chat box, guys. Send it through. I'll drag it across.
a little stronger than we were before. I've missed your face. Has it been that long? Looking forward to a fire and a sing-along. Let's stay the same as the children grow, and teach them all the simple things we thought we used to know. So beautiful to see how we have changed. In time, you know, everything we've lost comes home. Yeah, and I will grab onto your arm, a little stronger than we were before.
Stay safe, everyone.
In a word, in a day, we're all friendly, and it's love that we're fighting for. I'm proud, you know, that we always held out hope. So if you grab onto my arms, let's take a walk until the sun gets warm.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to the Marty's Garden Show right here on YouTube every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. Sydney, Australia time. We've got more videos coming out through the week on worm farming and using your worm casts and different things to grow amazing plants, using your waste and turning into something, I keep saying, wonderful and valuable. Those two words go together really well. I appreciate you for coming. For without you, this wouldn't be a show. We wouldn't have a community. I wouldn't have a channel. So thank you so much for coming. Have a great day. Happy worm farming / gardening. And we'll see you at the next video / live show real soon. Bye for now.